I bet Buffalo. I just believe in them in this spot. And part of the reason I believe in them in this spot is, Dak, as good as he's been, one of the things that's plagued the Cowboys, and I don't want to put it all on Dak, 2-5 on the road for Dak in December versus playoff teams.
That's telling.
And I think we'll find out this Sunday if they're a new Dallas Cowboys team or if it's the same thing. Is Dallas Buffalo the consensus most exciting game this weekend? Is it? I
think so.
Well, Chicago,
Cleveland. I might slide it up into the top tier.
Yeah.
Okay. But if we're talking about Dallas and Buffalo,
in a vacuum, yeah.
I think this is the biggest game this weekend.
In the top tier, we're doing sports families. The Sanders family tier.
Oh yeah.
Dion, the patriarch, bringing his Gucci and his Louis along with them. Shiloh and Shadur looking out for the youngins.
Yeah, I think
You're
that's
a big Coach Prime guy.
Top tier.
Prime.
By the way, we got to name the ponds. Dion's got 2 ponds. He has 3 in his backyard. One of them's unnamed. The other 2 are Prime and Time. So he's tried to get the public to come up with a name for the 3rd pond. I was literally racking my brain last night.
How about just Dion?
How about
Well, he said Neon. And
Neon is actually his nickname, right?
Yeah, Neon's the only nickname left, right, for Dion that hasn't been used.
Neon.
That was a Sports Illustrated.
Toxic sludge.
No, I think you how they can change the color of water.
The Lorax.
Some lighting in there, change colors, something neon, and just name it Neon Pond, or you could put an island in the middle and call it Sanders Island, which I think would be really cool because how corners like to say. I'm an island.
Oh, yeah.
Regis Island, that sort of thing.
I used to put motherfuckers on Long Island.
Yeah, Long Island. You started talking to them like you were from Long Island.
No, I was a guard. Treat yourself like a DB.
Paisan.
Okay,
Hey, how about
try this one? I went through everything, and this is half baked. But you remember Lake Okeechobee at Florida State?
Yeah.
Lake Oka Championship.
How about 4-8? How about Narcissus?
Oh man.
Huh?
Yeah, what'd you think about him winning Sports Person of the Year?
That's what he thrives off of.
And
he also brings people along.
What'd you think about him winning Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year?
Legitimate. I like that.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. He also went 4-8.
Okay, I got it.
Makes it all the more impressive.
How about
Lake
Louis? For his Louis luggage.
Really good.
It's got some alliteration.
I like that, but it's a pond.
Okay, but top tier sports family is the Sanders.
The Sanders family.
I have an argument here.
Okay.
What about now? Work with me here. This is outside. This is extreme sports. Maybe it's sports fishing. It's landing superstars as boyfriends and
landing big fish.
Love interest. The Kardashian family tree.
They're up there. They're up there.
They are Olympic athletes.
Chris Humphries.
To this.
Chris Humphries.
Literally and figuratively.
Ray J.
Well, the patriarch, the artist formerly known as
Caitlyn. Bruce Jenner is
the athlete
in his own
gold medal winner,
Or
which means best athlete in the world.
Yep. And they landed him.
That really came around.
No, it did.
Yeah.
I mean,
it did.
Yeah.
So
have you seen Kendall Jenner walk around? I mean, that's an athlete. You know what I mean?
Great sports family. Saw her at the ESPYs.
Kim K, great moves.
Yeah. Okay, so we're in that tier.
10-3 Cowboys are at the 7-6 Bills. Brandon Aubrey, this cat who's walking out here, just an easy little swing of the leg. 30 for 30 on field goal attempts this year. Was successful. Hey-o. Well, from 45, 50, 59, and 60 last week.
Here's the thing. What this comes down to for me is Dak Prescott. We've called him the MVP. If the season ends today, I really do believe he's that. The Cowboys look like the new Cowboys. We're jumping out of the gym, rightfully so, after they beat up on the Eagles, they beat up on the Seahawks. Now they have to go on the road and win a game that they're actually not supposed to win, according to Vegas. Buffalo at this point, I think they were 2.5-point favorites. The last time I saw, I bet Buffalo. I just believe in them in this spot. And part of the reason I believe in them in this spot is, Dak, as good as he's been, one of the things that's plagued the Cowboys, and I don't want to put it all on Dak, 2-5 on the road for Dak in December versus playoff teams.
That's telling.
You know, and I think we'll find out this Sunday if they're a new Dallas Cowboys team or if it's the same thing. And I took
That's the point.
I
That's the
took
point.
the Eagles game out where we were resting most of our good players. Of course, I played like almost 4 quarters in that game, but we lost that game in a low-scoring affair out there at the Link. I took that out of this calculus. 2-5 on the road in December versus playoff teams, and I think a big key for me on the other side of the ball for Buffalo is going to be they're in burn the ships mode. Like we've seen this. I think when they're at home, and I want Josh Allen running the ball anyways, but when they're at home and he breaks off a chunk on third down or you go quarterback run, that place goes nuts. You almost see him like power up, like level up. And I think you're going to see a lot of quarterback run this weekend because one thing that kind of didn't get talked about coming out of that Eagles game, and I think the Dallas defense, as good as the final score was, still has some holes, and the Eagles just couldn't take advantage of it, is the quarterback run was big for this team, the Eagles, on Monday night. If they wanted to stay in this game, that was one thing that they were riding successfully. And I think Josh Allen, in burn the ships mode, the quarterback run game is going to be big. It's a weather game. They're used to this stuff. I think they can ride Cook. And I think when you talk about Dallas and their defense, it's the middle of the field that they have a weakness in. Interior defensive line, and then the linebackers with some of the injuries they've had, with just the group they have on the field. You know, we talked about in the first half how good Joe Brady was getting them in 12 personnel. They were 7+ yards of play. Can they cover these tight ends? Can they stop the run? And when you look at Buffalo, there was that span where they lost to Cincinnati, they lost to Denver, they lost to Jacksonville. These are all big games in the AFC. And in those games, they had time possession around 21, 22 minutes. Okay, over the last 3 weeks, the Jets, the Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs, new coordinator, 36 minutes, 40 minutes, and 35 minutes. That's how these guys have to live. If they can keep Dak off the field for long stretches of time and they can ride the run game and let Josh convert in these situations that he's been so good converting in, run the football with him. And Josh, I talked about this on Inside. You know how fucking frustrating it is for like Steve Spagnuolo, who's a really good coordinator. He knows when to dial up a great pressure. Like he knows not only the pressures to call, but when to call them. That's how he's made his money. In that game, there were multiple free runners, and we talked about this, Kyle, McDuffie, Bolton, that you save up your best call for the biggest situation, and Josh will burn your free runner.
Not good enough.
And I think that is the thing that separates him from some of the other quarterbacks we're talking about, and that's the thing that he's going to do well this weekend when they bring pressure. And also, like just like sidestepping Nick Bolton or McDuffie, Parsons, Lawrence, that whole group, they're going to be back there. But Josh is bigger than all those guys. And so if he
size does matter.
And size matters. If he can extend plays, I feel pretty good about them this Sunday. And for Dallas' offense, Dak against Sean. You know, Sean's got to stay out of man situations. Dak has done a great job burning up man coverage. And you got to have answers for the bunches, for the sacks.
I'm on Dallas.
And Ferguson's got to be a big part of it. You're on Dallas.
I'm on Dallas. I like that offensive line. I like what they're building there. I know that the matchup against Jalen presented some issues for Tyler Smith at times, but I think that the Ed Oliver double teams are going to be the most crucial part of the football game. I think getting him started,
because he's a little undersized.
Getting the down guys started for Dallas is going to be such a massive part of what they try to do. They're going to try to put the 3 technique on the linebacker and have a guy untouched for 3 yards, and the rest we can live with. But you know, from there, they're going to allow Dak to make plays. And the weather is really the big determining factor. Is it going to be an offensive line game, to your point? Is it going to be Aaron Cromer's boys versus the guys down there in Dallas? And if that's the case, then I'm going to put my money on the guys in Dallas because they got a Hall of Famer and they got a young player at left guard who just wants to get after motherfuckers.
And not to say that Dallas hasn't beaten anybody in the rain or making this a big thing, but like Buffalo.
This plays into their home court.
But Buffalo 2 weeks ago, against Philly, who's, you know, from an offensive standpoint, you talk about the physicality, the offensive line. Buffalo hung in there, and offensively, they fucking moved the ball up and down the field. The weather did not affect Josh Allen or that offense, and I think I would expect to see a lot of the same. I think it could be a shootout, Kyle.
He's a guy that can throw through the rain. You know what? It's funny. When I went to Kansas City, I I was wide-eyed, and I didn't understand the greatness that was in front of me or the talent they had at the quarterback position fully. Like, I knew Pat was the quarterback, but I remember there was one day in particular, and I was out on the field really early, and it was windy as hell. And I looked at one of the coaches, and I was like, are we going to throw, like...
Are we going to be able to throw?
No. Like I said, are we going to throw it less today? And the guy looked at me, he goes... He looked at me, and then he looked over to Pat, and he goes, "That motherfucker throws through the wind." And that's kind of the Josh Allen situation. The wind being the proverbial anything, being the Nick Boltons or being the weather.
Who's going to throw that bad pick? Because Josh is known to do it. He's done it at bad times. He hasn't done it as much since Joe Brady came on, but there was a pick last week that could have really cost him. Luckily, it was at midfield for them. I think Dak, you talk about early in that Eagles game, he played so well, but he did sail some balls high, and we have seen situations like that Giants pick where you're like, hey, man, just avoid that big mistake. It's the Giants. It's not a big deal, but can they avoid that big mistake this weekend?
Redacted. If he reverts back to December's and years past, redacted. I've stolen that from a green light thing on Twitter. Now, Buffalo's losses, 6 of them, by 6 points, 5 points, 4 points, 6 points, 2 points, and 3 points.
And these are two coaches who at different times, and Sean right now even, they've been under a lot of stress. And they're old school NFL coaches, and McCarthy's been maligned before, but he's on the upswing, right? And Sean's kind of on the downswing. So this is going to be an interesting one. I don't know if he's like, hey, guys, last week it was, it's like this is our Pearl Harbor game. Nobody's coming back.
I was going to save all the jokes.
I don't know if this week it's like, a Jim Jones game. They're coming to our house.
I think he's still on his jihad.
Everybody's going to be on the ground at the end of this.
Doesn't everybody want to see Buffalo in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Except for the teams in the AFC.
I paid for YouTube TV. I intend to watch the elite quarterbacks. Amen. One of them being Josh Allen. Joe Burrow's not around. We can't watch it. He's given all of his superpowers to Jake Browning. Who knows?
The NFL needs, if you want to talk about,
we need the quarterback.
You know how conspiracies about refereeing have really been on, it's an all-time high. Like, the NFL needs the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs. And, I can imagine if they get a call or two
need
Sunday,
Joe Brady
it's going to be
Buffalo needs the Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo needs the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs.
I like that you led into that conversation with Dak's stats in the latter part of the season and then the Cowboys stats kind of. But, I mean, it's easy, and we talked about this before the show, but it's easy to paint a picture by stats on Dak Prescott, and it tells a story of the team and the organization. But I have a feeling that this group is one that is seeking retribution for the things that they've been made fun of for so long. We love making fun of the Cowboys, right?
It's like 20 years
This
now.
group understands the moment, and they understand that the window is closing. Smith, guys like Tyron Smith aren't going to play forever. Zach Martin's not going to play forever, and they don't have championships. And I think that
it's their best shot.
Yeah, their sense of urgency is at an all-time high in Dallas.
And if you want to win the NFC East, you can't lose this game. I don't think. Now, I think looking way ahead to Philly and Seattle, I don't feel good about that. I don't, with the secondary the way it is. But you have to play like you think Philly's going to win out.
This is going to be a playoff game. When you test your internet, you go to speed test on Google just to see how fast your thing's going. Speed test. That's what they're doing this week. It's a speed test.
Are we ready for the playoffs? Because you are going to have to go on the road in the
playoffs. You understand?
No.
Speed test. You do the thing. Beep,
I've never done a speed test.
I've never done a speed test. Well, you're a gamer.
I run speed tests. Quality control.
It was possible.
Anyways, this is a big one. It's Burkhart and Olsen. Now, I like that group a lot. It's a Fox game, but this is a tailor-made CBS game. I need Jim Nantz and Tony Romo every time Josh Allen steps on the field.
I don't know, Jim.
I don't know, Jim.
Too much of a man crush. I think Greg Olson's really bright and understands offense and defense both because he's a tight end. I think it'll be great.
It's a higher quality broadcast, but I love the Jim.
I know,
the Jim and Tony thing. Okay, Baltimore and Jacksonville. This is a huge game. Huge game.
10-3 Ravens, 8-5 Jags. Ravens favored by 3.5. This is Sunday night. We know who the crew is going to be.
And I cannot wait because I think this is a major, like Jacksonville, I said this the other day. When Trevor went down, I thought they were cooked. But seeing him move around in the pocket was really encouraging for me. That gives you a shot. And it gives you a shot at the number 1 seed. Because if they win this game and then Baltimore loses to San Francisco, which I don't think is a foregone conclusion, but you feel good about it, And if Kansas City lose one more game and you win out, and there's a lot of ifs, everything you want to do is still in front of you. But the problems with this team, the questions I have in a rainy game, and, like last week, Baltimore played in the rain, are they going to be able to impose their will on you as a run defense? I think when you look at Jacksonville, the lack of success that even the Cleveland Browns had last week on the ground, I would look back if I were Baltimore at some of these games where they got gap schemed to death. And these gun runs with pullers and all this stuff up front are the things that are going to hurt them. So I think Baltimore gets into gap scheme and pounds the ball. I think Stanley versus Allen is a huge matchup. Ronnie Stanley hasn't played as well lately. Josh Allen wants to be talked about like an elite rusher. You got to get home this game. I really do. And I worry about Baltimore's offense a little bit, still adjusting for Mark Andrews. You can't give them two gimmies. You can't give them a gimme like you had last week down in the red zone on the scripted drive from Cleveland. You gave, if you're Baltimore, the Rams 2 busted coverages and a punt return for a touchdown. You can't give them anything. 14 points off turnover last week, not good.
The Baltimore stuff, I mean, in terms of protection, when you got Ronnie Stanley, who's been dealing with health stuff on and off for a while now, I truly believe that with only one elite rusher in Jacksonville, the game plan is going to be
they can work around.
Bunch that get tighten everything down here. Come on down, tight ends, run fakes, and then you got one opportunity to get home at Lamar. You put Ronnie on him, you tighten down with a tight end and a guy in the backfield. He doesn't know what he's looking at, Josh Allen. Particularly with that offense, it's tough as a rusher, trying to get real rushes off against that unit in particular.
Well, you talk about resource allocation for the second level and the bind they're always in playing Lamar. And it's only gotten a little more interesting. I mean, not worse for second-level players because Mark Andrews in the core is a major matchup problem because you're not sure if they're actually going to run the ball or not. Now, like Isaiah Likely, I've talked about this. They got to split him out. He's not an inline blocker. Ricard's not really a Y. So Baltimore's got to work through some of these traditional tight end sets and figure out how they want to play these things. But for Jacksonville on offense, here's one thing I'm excited about. And this is not a spin zone. But Kirk got hurt. You're thinking, damn, we lost one of our best guys outside. Well, he's not really outside. They've been playing him in the slot, and that's part of the conversation when they signed him to that big deal. He's like a slot receiver. The issue is not paying a good slot receiver. It's paying 2 of them in Calvin Ridley. And when Calvin Ridley's had most of his success, he's been inside, and I've complained all year about them putting him outside. He's only been in the slot 13% of the time. Last week with Kirk out, we saw a big uptick. He was a third of the time in the slot. So I actually think it's one less slot guy, and it'll simplify things a little bit. I'm not sure if it's a net positive, not at all. But what I am sure about is it's probably good for Calvin Ridley and Trevor Lawrence working
together. It'll be different.
Right?
Yeah, it's different.
Because they haven't worked together well all season. And Doug talked about this week, it's the details in our passing game. That is what has hurt them, whether it's red zone, third down, whether it's that Jacksonville-Kansas City game, or a lot of these games where they had a real chance, but they just couldn't get on the same page. Now you have to be on the same page. And this weekend, if they are, I actually think they have a good shot. I know Macon gave them out. When I saw this Sunday night off the Jacksonville loss, which I think looks a lot worse than it really is, like they scored almost 30 points in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. That's kind of unheard of this year. I think this is a good spot for Jacksonville. Everybody's going to be high on Baltimore. They could have easily lost to that Rams team last week. Where do you think
how many
money
points
and the tickets would be had that happened?
+3. Jacksonville +3.
Jacksonville +3. Some people have gotten it 3.5. I kind of like Jacksonville to keep
I thought
it close
hurricane
to the
season
spot.
was over.
In this spot.
Hey, if you're a fantasy football player in a PPR league, here are your top tight ends per game. Kelsey, Hawkinson, Laporta, Andrews, Kittle, Evan Ingram. Big ups to Evan Ingram having a hell of a year.
That's your guy.
Yeah.
He used to be your guy, but he's
I've been hard on him because he didn't catch any of the passes thrown to him in New York. But 84 for 701.
He was open a lot.
And there's another guy that they like to work into the slot. So they just have a lot of guys
a lot of
line up
unrealized
inside. And so, I think the one fun thing about looking at Baltimore's playoff picture, and we're going to talk about the Browns in a second, is you get Flacco traveling to Baltimore in the playoffs. You talk about storylines. You talk about, like the possibility of Detroit hosting the Rams and Jared Goff and that whole thing. I mean, there are some really good storylines we could have in the playoffs, so keep an eye on that. And I just want to shout out the Ravens, man, as a program, because in the AFC right now, look around, the Patriots, that veneer has chipped off, and people are saying, Bill's no good and the whole thing. I don't agree with that, but, the Patriot way is over. There was no way it was Tom Brady. And in Pittsburgh, you've got Ben Roethlisberger talking about, the culture on this team is no longer existent and this, that, and the third, and you can see it play out on the field. But Baltimore seems to be that city on the hill that their floor is so high because they draft well. And over the last 3 years in drafts, you look at some of the guys that have played major snaps for them defensively. I think over 50% of their snaps are from guys drafted over the past 3-4 seasons by this group. They're always in it because they always draft well. And obviously they got the Lamar deal done, and here they go. And when you look around the AFC at some of the other programs that can kind of keep their way of doing things going over a long period of time, the Baltimore Ravens have somehow been the only team that's continued their way.
And there's a tight ship once they're there, too. You talk about drafting these guys, and it's a tight ship once they're there. We never hear about – the only time we hear about the Ravens, if the offseason or if it's non-football stuff during the season, is, hey, they were fucking wearing pads in, May.
Yeah, I mean, we don't hear about guys – I mean, like Lamar's contract situation was one that's not customary for them to have to deal with stuff like that, but don't have guys that get in trouble off the field that much. You don't have guys that make a big stink in the media. I've complimented or tried to compliment their defense before and saying they don't have superstars. What I mean there is they don't have anybody that's like this big household name that everybody hangs on every word this guy says at the podium. Like, Roquan Smith, the best quote you're going to get from him is laying the gauntlet down for whoever's going to come into town and play them. And Jadeveon Clowney doesn't say anything. And Patrick Queen's a great guy. We had him on Inside the NFL this week. And Kyle Hamilton's a great young kid. They really are a good group of guys that play well together as a team. Their best player is that guy in the middle. And after that, there's no one guy that they can't win without. And I think that's really cool that they have evenly distributed talent. And that's, Matabike, Geno Stone, all these guys, they drafted these guys.
I'm over here drawing up formations on how to get Josh Allen blocked for the Ravens.
Good luck.
I got some good answers.
And there's a documented green light bump, and Justin Tucker was on this week, so don't be surprised if Justin Tucker makes a game-winning kick for 1, 2, or 3-point victory, any number less than 3.5.
You said there's a green light bump. Let me ask you guys this. I was on my mind this week. Is there a State Farm curse? Seriously, think about it. Chris Paul, I feel like he's always cursed, but
he's also like 40 and
definitely since he got with State Farm, like the Chiefs, Mahomes, Motto, that's been a big thing. And they've been bad this year relative to expectation.
Andy Reid.
And then Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles. Like, is anybody else signed with State Farm? State Farm, you can't sponsor this show.
The only guy signed with State Farm that's doing well is the guy
Jake from
selling
State
the bundles.
It's Jake.
Southside guy.
Is he a Southside guy?
Yep.
Wow.
Vikings at Bengals, a pair of 7-6 teams in 3 starts in place of Joe Burrow. Browning has passed for 856 yards and completed nearly 80% of his passes, highest since 1950 for a quarterback in his first 3 career starts.
So Browning's been great, but he's running into what I think is going to be a bump in the road. I think this game's all about the 2 coordinators who are well-respected and unique, right, against 2 quarterbacks who aren't supposed to be out there. And Jake Browning has seen some stuff, but he hasn't seen B-Flow. And I think what Kyle, like we talk about the Vikings, what Brian Flores has done so well is not only really unique coverages behind that 6-man front, which really doesn't get – I mean, the stuff he's doing, it's not a pro defense.
I laughed at it in the first 3 weeks. I legit laughed at it. I said you should sue yourself for running that defense.
Yeah, but –
because he tried to sue somebody else. But then I was like –
in actuality –
hold on a minute, player.
Yeah. In actuality,
that's hard to protect
because you've had to be that guy that like gets down in your stance and you don't know who's the mic, you don't know who's
you're waiting for somebody else to give you an answer to the test.
Everybody,
it looks different than the one that you prepared for.
Everybody on that field, and Metellus is the perfect example. He's played 11 positions. They try to make it as positionless as possible because it's really hard pre-snap and post-snap. on teams when they play the Vikings. Like pre-snap, you don't know who to ID. You don't know who's a rusher, who's somebody who's going to be detached from the line of scrimmage. And then when they mug up, they bail out a lot. They're blitzing less than they were early in the season. They're still blitzing a fuck ton, but they're converting some of these opportunities into chances to confuse people post-snap and flood the zones. And for a young quarterback like that, I think it's going to be really hard on him. So I do lean in a low-scoring game, the Vikings. And I think Nick Mullins is going to be fine.
We're opposite day.
What?
Again.
What?
On these picks.
No, you're on the Bengals.
I'm going to tell you why when you're done.
Okay, well, all I'm saying is Nick's played some football. So I actually feel good about – and you look at a tight line like this – for a team that just scored 3 points against the Raiders on the road and just benched Josh Dobbs, like, why is this line so tight? It's not going to be a high-scoring game. I'm pretty certain of that. I feel like this is a Minnesota Vikings B-flow type of game. You know, the Bengals aren't going to score 30 points in this game.
It's going to be so cold in Cincinnati, and they have the perfect blitz beater in Jamar Chase.
Right.
I mean, you talked about Jacksonville having a bunch of slot receivers and nobody that's a true outside receiver. Well, there's some rule breakers at this receiver position. And if you're at home and you're like me and you didn't watch the receiver position as strongly as you should, let me tell you, it's like tackle, guard, center. These guys have different body types, different traits. Jamar Chase is a guy who breaks all the barriers in terms of he can play X, he can play Y, he can play Z, he can go from motion, he can go from the backfield. Jake Browning has at his disposal against a team that relies so heavily on the blitz, the best blitz beater in Jamar
No question.
Chase. Whether it's zero pressure or whether you need a quick outlet pass, a guy who can recognize defense and get open quick is going to be Jake Browning's biggest friend. And it also comes down to Zach Taylor's ability to adjust to what he sees from B-Flow, because you and I both know the test you prepare for is not the one that you will take on
And that's
Sunday.
it. And sometimes if you're just banking on a guy being open in a spot and getting him the ball quickly, because that's a lot of times what these backup guys do, like that picture is going to change all the time. And so it effectively turns into a coin flip if you're just like, hey, the blitz is coming, I got to get it to Chase. Well, that window could be closed. Now,
And Orlando Brown's really smart. Their left tackle, he's seen a lot at the position. He grew up in the game. He is really
Played under
cerebral.
Andy Heck.
He's a really, really cerebral player. I think he does sniff out, I'd say, at least 30% of these things before they even happen.
Here's all I'll say. I'm not saying the Vikings are going to win the game. I didn't bet the Vikings. I would like for them to lose because I have that win total, but I did bet the under. So if you're sitting at home and this under is sitting there at 39 or 40, take it. I know 41 is a key number, but I just feel like this could be a really tight, low-scoring ball
It'd
game.
be a chess match at the beginning, but it could turn into a football game late.
Yeah,
Hey,
a football game could break out.
something or nothing here from any angle of it. Kevin O'Connell made Josh Dobbs the emergency third quarterback this week. Made Jaron Hall the backup. He said, I just think that Jaron is fully healthy now. I think he's really gotten back on the grass and really worked through his continued development. We wanted him to go about this week simulating as if he was playing, just using it as a real tool for his development and growth, and he's done a nice job.
I think he's just paying Jaron Hall back for giving them this run, because when he went down in Atlanta, I was sure they were going to get beat by Atlanta. And Josh Dobbs came in and fucking went on this run, dude. Like,
It's one of those interesting organizational things that maybe does pay off in the long run.
maybe. I don't know.
You ever been to an Air and Space Museum?
Yes.
So it's all the old retired stuff that
Yeah.
doesn't work, but it worked. It had its heyday.
Soviet era.
Like everything's silver, you know what I mean? That's Josh Dobbs. He's just a silver spacecraft that at one time did amazing things for this country and for this team.
For a month.
But now it's cordoned off with
Yeah, it's the rope. They got the rope around him. He's like
and they're like, we have a new version of
a
him.
dinosaur at a museum. We have this new
But we're gonna keep him
spaceship.
around. Like they bring John Glenn,
John Glenn.
the moon guy.
Scott Glenn.
They bring him
He's an
around.
actor in Firestorm.
They bring John Glenn around like they're going to do with Josh Dobbs. He's got a job for life.
Poor Dobbs, just been passed around.
I know, he really
I want him to
has.
do well. I want him to do
There's
well.
Scott Glenn. He was a guy in Firestorm with Dad. Dad spoke really highly of him. Okay.
Hey, this mean Broncos defense, they've won 6 out of 7. Lions have lost 2 of 3. Lions favored by 5 points. Is this a get-right game for Detroit at home?
I don't believe it.
I worry about it. Like when I first saw the line, and we talked about this when you gave it the Lions, at 3, like maybe, but it's ballooned up to 5 or it's kind of gotten into territory where you just take the Broncos. Like
4.5 at the moment.
the Broncos know how to play close games with Sean Payton. They want these games close. And I think if you're Denver, you shouldn't come in here tight. Let the Detroit Lions be tight. The Detroit Lions are going to be puckered up the first minute something goes wrong. I always say this. It's a canary in the coal mine when somebody grows a beard or cuts their facial hair or gets this drastic haircut. 2 weeks ago, Aiden Hutchinson went with the high and tight. Okay? And I think it's a great look for him, and I think he should keep it. But that tells me that something's going on there. When you really change your look, it's stressful. Like something's up. And I think Aaron Glenn, his seat is hotter than fish grease, and they're fucking like it's tight on that side of the ball. So if I was the Broncos, when they went to Houston, they took a bunch of shots out of the gate, like 3-4 shots early in that game to Judy, to Cortland Sutton. It looked like they wanted and they were prepared to score with this team. Houston. Now that turned into a relative rock fight, but I think more than anything, they have to come out with an attitude like they're trying to win this game. I know it's in their DNA to play games close. I think they'll be able to do that anyways.
That's how I see it when I close my eyes.
But come out.
Tight ball game.
But come out, and the thing
Broncos.
The thing that's happened to the Detroit Lions the last couple weeks, Kyle, has been that the Lions have gotten jumped. Whether it was Green Bay or Chicago.
And self-impalement.
Yeah. I mean,
They jumped themselves.
They've hurt themselves, but also, like Green Bay came out and it was bombs over Baghdad. They took a shot early. They found themselves up a score or two.
We can't say that.
We can say that, Kyle. Outcast can say it. I can say it.
If that's the barometer for things that we can say.
Well, there's some things that it doesn't work that way.
The Venn diagram doesn't work.
But like if you're looking at Denver, I would be aggressive, and I would understand the temperature in the Detroit building, because if things start going wrong for them at home, that's almost worse than when you're at home and you're going through a rough stretch and you find yourself down 2 scores.
Yeah,
like it's almost like you'd rather the other fans be screaming at you.
Chris.
Yeah.
I don't like the spot for Detroit if it's Sunday at 1:00. Talk to me about it being Saturday night at 8:15, standalone game on NFL Network.
I think that helps them. I think the emotion in that building will help them. But can they withstand
I think
the
same thing
physicality?
could be said for Denver, though, because I think Sean Payton's like, all the eyes in the football universe are upon us tomorrow. Prove yourselves.
I think
in this coliseum of gladiators.
Yeah, this coliseum that's been empty every January for 23 years, but this year it's probably not the case. I think it's a tough place to play, underrated, tough place to play, but I think they'll be up to the task. And I think Detroit, the physicality that they play with, when Detroit plays these physical teams, I want to find out who, like, Detroit's supposed to be the bully. They've been getting bullied. So I want to see, like, what's this team all about? I would have that attitude of aggression, of being the bully, not the bullied. And, it's easy to say.
You said jumped. I would say punked. Jumped would insinuate multiple people coming at them. It's been a fair fight, and they've just gotten their asses kicked, and they need to have a reality check.
They've gotten
Denver.
sucker punched. And I think Denver's got a chance to do that. I think for Detroit, they've gotten a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, but they haven't been able to finish. This is a tough week to do that. I mean, we've talked about it. I think it was the Buffalo game. They started talking about how mobile, Russ looks this year relative to last year. He is a wizard back there in some of these situations.
He's lighter.
Sometimes he'll just fall down. Like, I used to play them twice a year, and I knew what it was. When you rush Russ, don't worry about being high. And what I mean by that is get to 9 yards, like run the hoop, because he's a shorter quarterback who bails out of the back of the pocket. And I think burning these edges,
reverse pivot,
and you've got to trust that the guy's inside, down Aleem McNeil, I think, and not a great group inside, but they have to cave this pocket. And if they can cave this pocket and these guys on the edge can run the hoop, they can get to him. But the point is, when you get to him, you got to get him down. And you can't have him extending plays and pulling stuff out of his ass. C.J. Gardner-Johnson might be back. They opened the window. They're talking about playing Branch a little less. I think that's one of the biggest things for Detroit down the stretch is if both these guys are healthy, how do you roll them out? And you're playing a cover 3 group, okay? That's what they've been playing since Vance Joseph got less aggressive. Cover 3. Where can you hit cover 3? Right down the seams. And last week they did not get the ball to Laporta at a high click. Got to get the ball to Laporta. And Glasgow and Decker have to be a lot better. They have given up a lot of sacks over the last 7 games. I think
That
they're 10 of
Decker
the 15
matchup,
sacks.
that Decker matchup against Chicago was not in his favor.
Not in his favor. And you got to find a way. If you're Denver, they have a lot of pretty good rushers. They have no like alpha rusher. Somebody has to be that alpha.
I think Taylor can handle. I hate using the word jag. Jag is something they use in O-line room to describe a non-all-star player. It's
Fucking
like
jag.
It's the game
Jag.
manager of rushers. You know what I mean? I think Taylor Decker handles those, but it rears its ugly head when you play against a guy like Sweat.
We'll find out if Baron Browning's a jag or not. I don't think he's a jag. I think he's pretty.
And I use that term
yeah.
not as nefariously
pointed out
as
at Denver.
Yeah. 5 games in the top tier. This is the third with a 3-point line. The Browns at 8-5 are favored by 3 points over the 5-8 Bears. Since Montez Sweat has joined the team, it's a team best 3.5 sacks. They're top 5 defense since Montez.
this is a
joined the
lock for
club.
me.
Yeah.
This is a lock.
I think for a couple reasons, Kyle, I like the Bears in this spot. Number one, and we talked about this a second ago before you came on, the Bears have 5 wins. Look at their schedule.
Path.
If they win out, I don't want to sell hope to the hopeless,
Path.
but I'm ready to jump on this bandwagon and say they can do it. Now,
Playoffs?
playoffs? I don't even think this was in the consciousness of Bears fans 6 weeks ago. But, like, if you win this game, you're going to play the Cardinals, who are no easy task. You're going to play the Falcons at home.
Dub.
Okay, and you're going to play the Packers on the road, a division rival on
This
the road.
is the inverse of the 2013 NFL season where the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears, they met in Week 17 to decide the fate of who got to go to the playoffs and who went home. And what happened? The Bears, we had them stopped. Aaron Rodgers, 4th down, rolls left.
Brutal.
Julius Peppers gets cut by Kuhn. And then who's wide open? It's Randall Cobb. He's wide open. It's Randall Cobb. At Soldier Field. Well, the Bears are going to win out, and they're going to go to Lambeau, and it's going to be Justin Fields to DJ Moore walk-off.
Man, if that happens, Kyle, we're going to run that social because I feel like we are one of the few people talking about the playoffs for the Chicago Bears. And I'm not saying it's likely.
There's other
but if
wackos out there.
If they win this game, Kyle, if they win this game, they could be on their way. Now, not on their way in a way that, like, they got all this momentum, but, like, they could have a real shot at this thing.
They really have momentum, though.
And I think the key is, as average as the Bears have been, as bad as the Bears have been at times, they have rounded into form and found an identity, which is we run the ball, we're not afraid of you, and we play good defense. And when you play the Cleveland Browns, especially in Cleveland, okay, I think a lot of teams are beat when they walk in the door. They look across the line at Myles Garrett. They play tight man coverage. They're physical. They've got backers that come downhill. But I think the Bears are built to be able to run the football in this team. And you're going to have to do it with some gap scheme stuff. But I think the Bears can counter this kind of intimidating vibe that the Browns
They've
give.
got an O-line in Chicago for the first time in a long time. And I remember that was the
I think
complaint.
the key thing you said is identity, and the Bears football is running the ball and playing good defense,
Yep.
and that's what they are, and that's when they're most successful.
And this quarterback thrives in this identity.
System fan.
And I think what's so interesting about it is, Justin Fields has been playing really good ball, like from my standpoint, the eye test, but people aren't sure. And this is a month audition. And I think for a lot of other teams that are looking to trade for him, we'll talk about those teams in a bit, and maybe there's one in
People
particular.
are stuck on the fence of Nolan's question, the proverbial, can we win with him or are we going to win because of him?
And in some situations, I can point to situations in games where you are 100% winning because of Justin Fields. Like just certain plays where you're dead to rights if it's anybody else.
You
Or
heard
he
Stefanski talk about him this week.
the back-breaking
oozing
scramble.
about him.
The back-breaking scramble last week against the Lions. Stuff like that, where it's like he got to that pylon
Which
so
one?
fucking fast.
Yeah.
I'm talking about down in the red zone. So I think this is the perfect spot for the Bears if they want to win this game against a team that most people are probably on in the Browns, who just beat the Jaguars, who are really tough at home. I think they're not going to be intimidated, and the Browns are banged up. Delpit, DeJuan Jones, Okoronkwo, who had a peck last game, and Jim
Miles
Schwartz
has a
came out
shoulder.
and was like, Yeah, Miles has his shoulder. Jim Schwartz came out of the game and was like, I didn't even know he had a pec. I'm sick to my stomach watching it, just how difficult it was for him to finish this game. They have been so banged up this year. We've talked about this at length, 4 different quarterbacks that they found a way to win games with. There's no reason that they should be where they are with the injuries they have. So I want to shout out Kevin Stefanski again. And for Joe Flacco, he could make $4 million if he gets to the Super Bowl. This just came out today. $75,000 a win, okay? $250 with a wild card win, $500,000 if he wins the divisional round game in the playoffs, and then $1 million if he wins the AFC Championship. $2 million for the bowl.
Comeback player of the year?
I mean, if he, when do they vote on comeback player of the year? I feel like if he can smoke.
Is there still time to come back for us?
No, there's no time. If he can smoke these next couple teams, like maybe he's in that race.
Whoa.
Tommy D needs that
Chicago Bears.
that
No, I know.
contract
Tommy D.
just to pay for tickets.
Tommy D does.
Keep saying I'm like,
I know,
who is Tommy D?
He's not even Italian.
Yeah. What are you?
Me?
He's Irish.
Irish and German.
Are you?
Tom DeVito making
How much German?
750,000 American
Convenient.
chickens this year. by the
I
way.
know.
Flacco's at plus 2,000 right now.
Flacco's plus 2,000.
Did y'all see the post-game speech when Stefanski gave him the game ball last week?
What do you say?
He was just, hey, man, I'm so honored that y'all have welcomed me into this locker room. I feel like a 10-year-old kid playing out there. I was like, fucking Joe.
That's cool.
And all the
Let's go.
guys, man, Wyatt Teller talking about he's a dog. Like when you hear somebody call somebody a dog, like that's a great compliment to hear if you're a position player.
If
But
you're
when
a human.
quarterback gets called that.
If you're a human,
Yeah, if you're
and you
a
get
human.
called a dog,
Not in every
a good
situation,
thing.
but on a football field for sure.
I'd be a lab.
So I like Chicago here on the road. It's at 3 right now. I've seen it at 3.5. If you can get it at 3.5, I think it's probably a good bet.
What kind of dog is making?
Maltese.
A Shar-Pei. They're kind of cold.
German Shepherd, smart as shit.
Not his German Shepherd. Puked all over itself yesterday. He had to clean it up. Dog can run up the side of a tree, but
Dog's
can't.
looking at me like I can
Clean
do a
his
lot
own
of things,
vomit
but
up.
I can't get the tissues out.
Hey, we need a name for the middle tier.
Oh, the middle tier.
We're talking sports families
I
in honor of the DeVitos.
The
how do
Jordan.
you feel about LeVar Ball?
The Ball family.
Because honestly,
Where'd he go?
a lot of people gave LeVar Ball shit, but
He was a good dad.
he produced 2 NBA stars. Well, one's a star, the other one's a good player, right? Or a decent player. I don't know.
Yeah. Hurt.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't watch the NBA unless there's a fight in the Eastern Conference.
He's
but
got a bad knee.
I think a lot of people got really mad at LeVar Ball. But all in all, like he's just being a dad. He's really
Good
passionate
lesson.
about his kids. I'll
Good
put them in the
lesson.
middle tier, the Ball family.
I'll go with the Jordans. Michael, Marcus.
His son, yeah.
What are the others? Jeffrey. Because,
the dog.
they're middle tier because Michael, obviously, greatness. And then the rest, not so great. So they balance out to the middle tier.
The Pippin's the low tier because
Marcus Jordan
because
is
of Larsa.
dating Larsa Pippen. There you go.
Yeah, Lars is the bottom. The Pippins are the bottom
greatness.
tier.
Greatness?
This podcast is brought to you by Cash App, the all-in-one app for spending, sending, and setting easy-to-track savings goals. With multiple tools for saving, spending, and sending, Cash App is an all-in-one way to stay in control of your money. Whether I need to send money to my pumpkin grower, pay for anything related to floating the river, quickly pay back a buddy for a night out on the town, or settle a bet, I can always count on Cash App. With security, boosts, discounts, a free-to-order debit card, no overdraft fees, Cash App is like a BFF for your money. It can be your Reed. Reed's my BFF in the studio. Cash App, the exclusive financial services partner of Greenlight. Download it in the App Store or Google Play to see why it's the #1 finance app in the U.S. App Store.
It's the Kansas City Chiefs at the New England Patriots. The Chiefs will feature quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who had to be picked up by the Whambulance
Oh, my gosh.
last week after a loss at home to the Buffalo Bills.
He
Now
knows
he's got
when-
another bill.
He knows when he's got the public on his side.
Now he's got another bill.
He does.
The public hates the Chiefs. The Chiefs have become the Patriots, where over a span of time, it was fun when New England beat the Rams. It was fun when they beat the Panthers. It wasn't so fun when they beat the Eagles for some of the people in here. But then, people were like, all right, that's a little much, and there's that point with every franchise. I feel like we got to that point with the Chiefs.
Past the sell-by date.
And everybody hates him, and they're happy to see him lose, and they love seeing Mahomes lose his shit on the sideline.
He was offsides, but the play was super cool.
It was a penalty.
Can't call
I
that.
love the oversimplification of this argument. You guys are just like the people in the YouTube comments.
Go on.
The issue is, for me, is this – the storyline for me is this. Do we see Bill and Andy head-to-head again? Is this the last one, or is this the first of maybe 10 in the AFC West over the next 5 years if he's coaching the Chargers?
Or the Raiders.
Or the Raiders. These are two of the best coaches of all time, and I don't know if we're going to see it again. And so depending on what you believe or don't believe about the reports swirling around in New England, I am, I'll put it this way. If I had to place a bet, I'd say the reports are true. I have talked to people who are on the inside of these rumors, and no one is pushing back on the rumors. But there's always the caveat that they could change their minds. If that's true, and this is the last one for Bill, I know on the way out the door in New England, he would love to look back at this game and say, "Yeah, they fired me, or I had to move on." But I fucking shut Patrick Mahomes down. I made them play left-handed. I took away Travis Kelce. That's what he does, right?
I see this one being tight.
I'd like to see the Kansas City Chiefs get right in this situation.
I think Zappy Balls, relatively speaking, against this defense. I think he makes some big throws.
Ooh, I don't think so.
No, I think he does.
Yeah. No, I know. I
really do.
I think this defense is going to suffocate them.
It's New England. It's Bill, like you talked about. It's a legacy game. There's a lot to play for both these teams. Kansas City trying to right the ship, make people forget about all the things they had to say about Kansas City last week. I know the receivers who want to get this taste out of their mouth. Patrick wants to put his best foot
forward. It might be
forward.
the worst receiver room matchup all year. I mean, find a matchup that's got worse.
Can we get Juju to switch
receiver.
uniforms?
Yeah, that might help the Chiefs.
That's what I'm saying.
Justin Ross is coming
Trade
back.
Tony. Okay, who says no? Tony for Juju.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Straight up.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Because Tony deserves New England.
I would like to see Tony in a New England building.
Yeah.
Okay, that's like going to military school. You remember when kids used to get in trouble and they get sent to Fork Union Military Academy?
They come back and their buttons are straight as fuck.
That's where they need to send Tony, because he'd come out like, oh, fuck, I had to make my bed in the morning. I had to line up on sides, the whole thing. But I think the biggest question for me is what does he chef up? Because I do think the Kansas City defense is going to take care of business. What does Bill chef up, taking away Travis Kelce? And if you look back at the games that these two have played, Andy Reid has been on the wrong side of the biggest ones, right? The Super Bowl with the clock management at the end of the game. Nolan was recounting being a Philly kid and watching.
In agony. 5 minutes, down 10. Taking our jolly old time.
Like running the play clock down to 5.
At the time, I was like 7 years old. But so I didn't really have the wherewithal to know what was going on. But like the family members around me just
screaming.
And the funniest thing is there's a historical account from the Patriots' perspective.
Yeah.
And Bill was so confused. He was asking the assistant coaches to confirm the score. He's like, "We're up 10, right? We're up 10." And they're like, "Yeah, dude, like we're good."
I can hear Bill saying that.
And he said, he was like, "Then what the hell are they doing?"
Yeah.
And like I can hear people in my family yelling that at the screen, like, "What the hell are we doing?"
I can imagine that in a room full of Philadelphia people, that was a tough 5 minutes and the puking and the whole thing. But you have the overtime game and with the D Ford game, like that kills, bro. Like I think they win the Super Bowl that year. They would have gone on to beat the Rams. It's D Ford lined up off sides. There was a classic in New England in 18, 43-40. Like Andy's just been on the wrong side of these. So I think this is a personal – I'm not saying they don't like each other.
I watched highlights from that one the other night.
Yeah.
The 2018 AFC Championship.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Classic game.
Classic game. So I'm looking forward to this because I like seeing Kansas
Makes
City.
you realize how long Patrick's played.
Yeah. Stanford Steve said earlier this week that Kansas City hasn't faced any adversity over their Super Bowl run or their runs, and I think that's ludicrous. I really do because they've
Stanford Steve said that?
Yeah,
He's your sober driver?
Yeah. Yeah. They've faced adversity now. They have. I don't think this is about them not being able to handle adversity. I think it's just like, can we get these fucking wide receivers
how good are
to do
we?
the right things?
How good are we actually?
And I think that's what's so frustrating.
That Chiefs-Pats total is 37. 37 is also the total in Miami. Jets-Dolphins. Zach Wilson coming off 27 of 36
I
for
mean-
301 and 2.
You got to slam the over, right?
Miami favored by 8.
I do think the over might be the play here.
Come on.
Now I don't know what's going on
I'm
with
putting the money I owe making in that.
I don't know what's going on with the Miami injuries. Like, could you get Armstead back this week? You're going to be dealing with Eichenberg, Cotton, Jones, and then Jackson, who's been a good player for them this year. So, it's not like you had everybody up. It's not like you had a great offensive line the first time you played them. You were able to move the ball fine. But I think this is going to be interesting. 15-mile-per-hour winds, gusts up to 39 miles an hour. On 39 miles an hour. That's
Tua
like
does
tornadic.
not throw it through the wind.
Zach
He does not
Wilson
throw it through the
does.
wind. Zach Wilson throws it through the wind, but then it might go somewhere else. I just think everything has to be perfect for Miami. So I'm afraid in these spots to take Miami. There's a lot of points to take Miami. Even at home, like look what happened the other night and with the weather. I think this one could look a little bit different. Do you remember the Franco-British supersonic airline jet? It was called the Concorde.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it could get to Europe at Mach 2 speeds, 3
Yeah.
hours from New York to London. Everybody was like, look at this fucking plane.
It had a cockpit that actually dipped down.
Yeah. They were like, oh, we've never seen
Aerodynamics.
anything. We've never seen anything like this fucking plane here.
wasn't
It's going to get you to London in 3 hours. It's the perfect plane. And then it just blows up because like something wasn't perfect.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
You're thinking of the Hindenburg.
No, I'm thinking about
That's
the
a blimp.
Concorde. That's a blimp. But whether it's the Hindenburg, the Concorde, the Titanic, it's got some design flaw. But
Things blow up.
That's kind of the way the Miami Dolphins operation reminds me of the Concorde. It's like we've never seen this before.
There were blind spots.
You get you to London in 3 hours. What if you hit a little debris on the way off the runway? It's just going to explode. Like that's kind of the way I'm thinking about the Miami Dolphins right now. Can they play through these injuries? Can they play through weather? Can they play through? You talk about teams that haven't handled adversity. Anytime a good team plays this team, and New York is not one, they do not play well. But the thing that worried me last week is even with Cheat out, even with the lineman out, that's a game you should win. When you force 2 turnovers backed up, when you pick a ball off and go up 7-0 on account of your defense at home, like that's a gift. We used to sit in meetings and be like, yeah, when this happens, your chances of winning go way down.
Yeah.
When this happens, and it's predictable. If you throw a pick 6, you're going to lose that game probably on the road. If you turn the ball over twice backed up on the road against a better team, you're going to lose that game.
See long.
But they found ways to lose certain games, usually against good teams, but last week not great. So I kind of worry about Miami covering in this spot.
Hey, you've just given me 4 wins. Is that right? Arkansas State, couple of overs, the Bucks against the Pacers. I want to be your gambling buddy here, okay? I want to repay the favor. You call it as you see it. You're a very good analyst, but I think you need to zag your brain on this one with the Miami Dolphins. Listen to this. Miami 30, New York Jets 14.
It's your favorite score to say.
Can you see that?
You always say.
I really like 31-13, but I'm
So what's
thinking
the score going to be?
30-14.
Okay.
Can you see that?
I can see it for sure.
The Connor Williams loss is a pretty big
Connor
loss.
Williams' loss is huge. ACL, he's out for the year.
Yeah.
But I just, man, with the weather the way it's going to be, the California Condor, not the California Condor, the Concorde, the Concorde, the plane, not the bird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Endangered.
You don't have to fly everywhere in 3 hours.
Concorde.
You are a running football team.
Yeah.
Okay, so morph into that running football team. If the Miami Dolphins want to make a run, and I think they can, but not the way they're doing things right now, you need to run the football. Last week, you ran at will. You know what I'm saying? You get down the red zone, and you're not sure, and you're kicking on 4th and 1. Like, you got to be able to trust these guys up front. The reality of the NFL is offensive linemen, the rate of attrition on those guys is higher than the quarterbacks this year. Like O-linemen, they go down. Okay, every week you got to replace a guard. And some teams have to replace a couple. I'm not minimizing these problems, but you have to be able to trust your backups to help you out of these situations. And one easy way to do that is lean on the run game.
Mostert just tied Ricky Williams for most TDs in the season in Miami.
Here's a score I can see.
And he's the second running back.
17-9. Because the
28-27.
That's not a score I'm giving out.
That's not a.
But here's what that's
Kyle.
not going to happen.
Be serious.
28-27.
Fucking be serious.
Come on, dude.
Here's what I think.
Jets.
No, I think this Miami defense has got to be pissed off. What we're going to find out. They gave up fucking 327 to Levis. Howard gave up 129 to D-Hop. The Jets only ran for 29 yards last time they played.
And the fashion in which they did give it up at the end of the game.
At the end of the game. That's back-breaking stuff. Like, you got to come out better this week. And I know you're down Jalen Phillips, and Chubb was pissed off last week, threw his helmet. That's the difference in the game right there. You know what I mean? And, for this defense, they got to take this shit personal. I know we blamed it on Tua because ultimately quarterback gets the credit. After you slice and dice the Commanders, it's like, wow, look at this offense. But when you lose games like this, quarterback gets the blame. Now, peel the onion back a little bit. It's not just the offense. This defense, I think, deserves just as much blame as the offense the other night.
Here's a game that Bad Back loves. Nolan, talk to me about the quarterback situation in Houston. Texans are at the Titans. The Titans are favored by 3 points. This is our third straight game with a total of 37.
It's looking like we're going to be back to Mills Mafia. Davis Mills in the lineup and that big neck of his. CJ still in concussion protocol.
And a defense in Houston that just gave up the aforementioned 301 yards to Zach Wilson.
By the way, the Concorde had a Rolls-Royce Olympus 593 turbojet engine. So,
that's
I don't care.
Devon Achane.
Exactly.
Right there.
It doesn't do you any good if you. Anyways, here's Houston and Tennessee. As Macon alluded to, Houston's in a bad spot, and I think this is a big Vrabel spot. And like when you say Vrabel spot, it gets me excited, because Mike Vrabel is maybe my favorite head coach in the NFL. The things he's done left-handed before, the wins that he's stacked up. You talk about like going to Kansas City with Malik Willis. I'll never forget that game. They're 10-point dogs, and they make that thing a fist fight. And like when you remember back to Brady's last game in the rain in New England against a team that's definitely better than you, like just the end of that game, him delaying that punt and then taking the false start and watching Bill on the sideline, just so fucking frustrated because not only is he getting out coached, he's getting out coached by his kid. Mike Vrabel it's like when I play Waylon in Connect 4, I cannot beat him. And I want to throw the fucking thing through the window. That's how Bill felt when Vrabel was beating him at the end of that game, being too cagey. And that's what he is. And like in spots like this, he thrives. 2020 AFC divisional playoff game. They're 10-point dogs to the fucking Ravens. And, the Ravens put up 508 yards but scored 12 points. Like they found a way to beat that team. Tannehill threw the ball like 13 times. So he's creative. And I don't even think he needs to be that creative this game. And that's the reason that I like the Titans here, because of all the injuries to Houston, because their entire team's on the report, including the quarterback and Nico Collins. They lost Tank Dell. And we saw what that looked like in the rain last week. For the Titans, they have something they didn't have over this last 5-7 year run, I believe, in Will Levis, somebody who can actually create a little bit more than Tannehill.
He's fearless.
You don't need the play action to be your bread and butter with Will Levis. He actually is able to create some offense for Tennessee. And I feel like in this game, with the people who are healthy, and Derrick Henry, who since 2015, these are his yards per carry against the Houston Texans. He went for 211 and 8.6 yards a carry. He went for 212 and 9.6 yards a carry. He went for 250 and 7.4 yards a carry, 219, 6.8 yards per carry. And then the quiet day at the office, 126 for 5.5. The last time they played each other. Sometimes, you know how this is when you played. The players change, but that logo you associated with success.
Yep.
And I think this matchup is one for Mike Vrabel and for Derrick Henry in this group where they're like, yeah, come into our world. And our world isn't as tough as it was when we had Ryan Tannehill. I think we got a quarterback of the future. Like, you heard DeAndre Hopkins talk about this guy last week after that game. I actually think, like, this doesn't even need to be a variable spot. They can just beat this team. And
Seen
with
the
way,
muscles on this quarterback, Levis?
yeah, he's huge. He has
Not as jacked as Brady Quinn.
his varsity blues energy. I just think it's a good spot for Houston, and Vegas
Nobody.
agrees. They're favored, and I don't know where the tickets are or where the action
For Tennessee.
or for Tennessee. Yeah, they're 2.5-point favorites.
I mean, I'm in love with this Will Levis guy. I'm in love with
Why don't you marry him?
seemingly how he's blind.
cute.
He's blind to the dangers of playing the quarterback position, whether it's running the football and trying to run everybody
Trying to run over Jalen Ramsey.
whether
Did you
it's
see Jalen
throwing the
Ramsey?
football in the whole shot, and just giving his guy a chance. It's all stuff that we love, but at the end of the day, God, it's dangerous stuff.
How about the video of him getting after DeAndre on the side?
Yeah, I love it.
Like a
I love it. We
quarterback
talked
going
about that
against-
on Monday, didn't
Yeah.
we? We
Yeah.
talked about it on Monday. We said, fucking Will Levis doesn't take shit. That's what I appreciate about this guy.
Tennessee-
And Hopkins knows he can't walk all over him now. And then Hopkins, after last week, goes out and says all this stuff about him.
Yeah, no, he loves him. You could tell. I mean, you could tell those guys rally around him. Tennessee
crawled
got
up in his ass.
72% of the bets and 87% of the money. So, no matter how you slice it, I think Tennessee might be the favorite this week. And so now Houston's in this spot where they got to win with their backs against the wall, because this is a playoff game for them. Every game from here on out is a playoff game. And Davis Mills has had experience.
And Kyle Long taught me sometimes when the backup comes in, the O-line is on their P's and Q's.
Yeah.
Communication's
true.
different. Cadence is different. You got to be on your shit.
And also, the night before, the coach says, hey, big guys, we're going to lean on you tomorrow. They tell you. They make no surprise about it. Like,
Interesting
tomorrow's your day.
Those Derrick Henry stats are ridiculous.
They're unreal.
It's like
Yeah, it's fake.
it's like Jordan versus the Knicks.
Yeah.
Just next level
It's
stuff.
it's like a high school stat line. You know what I mean? So, I mean,
It's like me versus Slim Jim.
I expect, yeah.
No
Non-sponsored.
You against nitrates in general. You know how many times I've seen Kyle walking around the house eating like a piece of pepperoni?
Yeah.
In case
not even a
meats.
pizza. He's just
Case
eating.
meats.
Yeah. Anyways,
I like deli meats, too.
that's like the Houston Texans to him.
Let me talk to you guys about a pair of 7 and 6 ball clubs. They're going to play in the middle of the afternoon on Saturday on the NFL Network. It's Steelers at Colts. Currently, Steelers win the tiebreak over the Colts based on best win percentage in common games, whatever that means. Breaking news, Alex Highsmith has cleared protocol.
That's
and
huge.
will play.
Wow.
Because when he came out of that game last week, and I didn't think they were ready to play, and I think they lost that game anyways, but it was really hard to get pressure. I mean, like, he is a guy.
TJ was knocked out, too.
I'm not a big fan of, like, campaigning for Pro Bowl votes on online. Like, I've seen some guys this week. This is that time of year where you're like, dude, like, you've seen a couple of those. I'm not going to name any names, but I think we all know who I'm talking about, maybe. But this fucking guy, Highsmith, I saw him post the other day, like, Pro Bowl vote. He should be a Pro Bowler. This guy has played his ass off, and I think it's so easy to get enamored with TJ Watt. He's great. He's one of the best we have in our game at rushing the passer, if not the best. But to have a 1-2 punch like that, I mean, it really does. He's the Robin. You know, every great rusher needs a great Robin, and he's been that guy. And I think losing him last week really hurt them. So him being back on the field is huge. And I think for Indy, you only ran the ball 18 times last week. That's the world, I think, that the Steelers want them to live in. You know, like, make Gardner Minshew beat you. Where you're having trouble is intermediate game in the middle of the field. These backers are suspect. Commit bodies to that area of the field and make him beat you over the top. I don't know that he can do it consistently. And so, like, on the other side, you got Mitch, who's probably not going to fuck things up, playing against Gus Bradley. Although the one time they played back in, I think, 2019, Chargers,
day.
Bears,
Big day?
he didn't have a big day. He had a bad day. But I think, like,
Bad
with the
day's
shell
bad.
coverages that he plays, it'll be interesting to see their game plan. I thought last week their idea was like, let's get out and sling the ball around the yard. This is a run game type spot, right? Like, let's get out there and impose our will. And it's going to be the same thing for Indy, but I don't know if they can do it. I think Pittsburgh can do it.
They were trying to, like even in those gotta have it situations, short yardage situations, we saw them going with the throw. I mean, I like Mitch because he gives you an option after you've ran the ball a lot with the ability to get to the edge, and he does have the ability to throw the ball once he is outside the tackle box. I think that's where he thrives. In 2018, when we had a lot of success, a lot of our stuff was the naked boot concept. I mean, and if it wasn't naked boot, we'd call it the nude boot, which is pull up at the tackle.
A nude boot.
Not quite naked, just a nude.
You know, there's synonyms though. Kyle is the thing.
Yeah, that's
But
the
it's
problem.
all about terminology.
But to an
in the
offensive coach,
NFL.
it's not.
So if he says naked, so here's the deal.
Scantily
We
clad.
ran-
Nearly
So if it
nude.
was
Nearly
naked-
nude.
Hear me out
Nearly
here.
nude. Nearly nude.
If it was fake ride 35 naked right, we would call it Cyrus. So that means the quarterback will be nakeding right. And if it's to the right, we would call it fake ride 34 naked left, aka Miley.
Because there's an L in there.
Yeah, Miley, Cyrus.
Yeah.
And then I forget what we have for the nude, but nude was like a condensed version of naked. Like he's gonna pull up. There is a spot that he gets.
You might not see his dick.
But Mitch can succeed in both those situations where it's the heavy play action, you pull up and you're almost in the pocket, you're out of the pocket. We don't know.
Yeah.
He can hit the whole shot on that.
Do you prefer?
He also does well getting out because he can run. I think they're going to run the football and he's going to have running yards.
Do you prefer Mitch fully naked or nearly nude?
I liked Mitch in 7-man protection
Got you.
with heavy run fakes,
Okay.
forcing these linebackers to fill their gaps and honor the fake.
Got it.
Because the token gun fake stuff is, that's what it is. It's
Yeah,
token.
no. Yeah, I mean, I actually like Pittsburgh in this spot. I mean, it sounds crazy, and maybe
Indy's a 1.5 point favorite.
Indy's a 1.5 point favorite. I like the over here too. I think both teams are going to move the
42.
ball. That totals at 42. And if you want to talk about a team that's playing with their back against the wall, you got former players like Ben Roethlisberger talking about the culture. You got Merrill Hodge saying the tight ends look like two turtles humping when they block. Like it's a bad thing to hear from some of your former players.
Welcome to the O-line community.
O-line meeting. Yeah.
You should hear some of the
Some
shit
of
they
the
say.
things that they're calling you guys.
Oh, God.
Whatever you're looking forward to this football season, there's one thing that pairs well with every great moment, and that is an ice-cold Miller Lite. Whether you're at the stadium, playing fantasy football, or watching the game at home, or at the bar, Miller Lite is here to make your football season taste like Miller time. From kickoff to the clock runs out, you can't go wrong with a Miller Lite in your hand. It's the only light beer with a taste worthy of our national obsession. Because what's the point of having beer if it doesn't taste like beer? I go to Dirty Nelly's every weekend. Sometimes I'm prepping for the show at the bar on Saturday night, watching a little college football, getting ready to lay out our Miller Lite moments. I like to have an ice cold Miller Lite right next to me. And the folks at Dirty Nelly's, they know when I get there to have my ice cold Miller Lite. It's got only 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12-ounce serving with a smooth taste and a crisp, clean finish. You get the taste you crave without the calories. So this season, crack open a light beer that hits your taste buds so hard you feel it in your heart. Make it Miller time all season long. Get Miller Lite delivered right to your door. Visit MillerLite.com/greenlight. Or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs for 12 ounces. Game day is the perfect pizza day. So make Little Caesars the official pizza sponsor of the NFL, part of your game day. Order online during our Pizza pregame 1 hour before and 3 hours after NFL kickoffs, plus all day Sunday, to have your NFL game day covered. Choose your favorite Little Caesars pizza or pick the toppings you crave. It's a pizza win. And speaking of winning, everyone scores with convenient delivery or our in-store pizza portal pickup. So grab some friends, order your Little Caesars, and enjoy during the games.
The
gotta
NFC
call
South tier.
one
It's
of
got
my
a
guys.
tier of its own.
Yeah.
Tampa's at Green
The
Bay.
Bermuda
Atlanta's at Carolina. The Giants go to New Orleans. Let's start with Bucks and Pack. The Pack's favored by 3.5. Totals 41.5.
I like the Packers here, man. I mean, I don't know if this is technically considered a zag because I don't take too much from a team beating Atlanta. But the reason I like the Packers here is the run game. I don't think the Bucs can take advantage of what Saquon and the Giants took advantage of the other night. Like they're not built to run the football. They haven't taken a lot of negatives, so they're not behind the sticks a lot. But they really can't run the ball, and so that's the thing that, like, if you're going to play the Packers right now, you got to feel good about. And then also, like, Baker, the last 2 times he's played the Packers with the Rams and with the Browns, 10 sacks, 5 picks. Like, Joe Barry's the constant. He's been there. I think this is a good spot for the Packers. I mean, I want to see how Love responds. I don't think last week is who he was. I think the receivers didn't help him in some spots, but he missed some throws. I'm going to be honest about a guy that I've been high on. He did not have his best game, but both teams in the red zone, bad offensively. Who's going to actually have the best game?
Bro, the issue is the involvement of Godwin in this offense. Like, I love Mike Evans, and I really like what Baker has to offer as a quarterback. But when you've got a guy like Godwin essentially riding the pine, statistically speaking, it makes me scratch my head, and I think that's like gross negligence. That guy was such a volume player, and granted, it's a different situation there, quarterback and that kind of thing. But that's what's puzzling to me. You've got a Hall of Fame receiver in Mike Evans, and I understand that he's going to get his share of receptions like Keenan Allen in Los Angeles. But at the end of the day, if you've got other guys, it'll be beneficial to your team to use them. Godwin's got to be more involved.
And if the Bucs win this game, I mean, like they feel like they could go to the playoffs. I mean, the math supports that. So I mean, like, this is a shit show. This division.
And if they blitz Jordan Love, they're going to pay for it. That fucker likes to sling that thing off his back foot.
He's seen a lot of blitz the last month of the season, including Wink last week. And not all blitzes are the same, and not all blitz designers are the same. But I think I don't worry about Jordan getting pressured. You know, it's just more about, like, make the throws when they're there. I mean, he missed some balls the other night.
I can see this line going down to 3.
Yeah.
And then I really like Green Bay at home.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
Me too.
Bummer of a loss for Green Bay last week. Same goes for Atlanta. Younghoe Koo, league's most accurate kicker. He missed 2. They were from 50 and 52, but 2 big kicks and a 4-point loss to Tampa Bay. Atlanta's at Carolina. The line is 3 points.
Yeah, now he's going to be outside. It's going to be cold. It's so kicks are going to matter in this game, man.
Atlanta's lost 5 one-score games.
Kicks are going to matter, and this is going to be a close game, and they've lost a bunch of them. That's a great point.
You can buy a ticket to this game for 50 cents.
Well, let me tell you about really?
Really? 2 quarters will get you in.
It's the unlikeliest of ticket prices, but I see it right here. I feel like this is a meme that somebody made up. Is this AI? That section 532, row 18 is 45 cents?
There are 3 tickets available, 45 cents a piece.
All right,
my
so
God.
let's just say, for sake of argument, there are 15,000 such seats. That would cost you $6,750.
It costs more to run a credit card.
Dude, how many seats can we get at 50 cents?
Should we buy a whole bunch? Let's see.
I'll buy a whole bunch.
Falcons fans in North Carolina, Utes.
But they're not going to go anyways because I got to get there. You know, it's like still a cost for them. How? Put them on a Concorde. In 10 seconds. As long as Cheetah doesn't get hurt.
Oh, boy.
If they were 50 cents, I would fill that bowl with Atlanta fans and then bet the Falcons, okay? And I'd still make money, all right? This is the ultimate hanger game. People are not going to be watching this game unless you're a Falcons fan. I think the big news this week that's kind of telling is Arthur Smith, barring a collapse down the stretch, is going to keep his job. That's the report. And I think that says with certainty that they're going to make a move at quarterback, and I think it's Justin Fields, and I think that's great. I'm excited about that.
You think that's going to happen?
I'm not breaking this news. I'm not saying it's happening, but like
you think that's
reading
what's
the
gonna
tea
happen?
leaves, yeah, I think Atlanta's a destination for
I
Justin
think it would be
Fields.
great for all parties involved.
Now, here's a funny fucking situation that could arise. Say the Bears go on a run. Say it comes down to the Bears and the Falcons, and the Falcons lose that game. Justin Fields makes the playoffs and is no longer available. Can you imagine?
The whole thing is
So in this situation, I just think Atlanta's got to take care of business. I want to shout out Ryan Nielsen, their D coordinator, who's done a really good job with not a lot of talent. I mean, I don't think it's a talent-rich defense. They have kept them in a lot of games. And Atlanta, if they win, they got to win these 21-19 type games, these 23-20 type games. With that defense and the injuries they've had to some of their best players, and just like I said, not that talent rich. I think he's done a great job, and it's a double whammy for New Orleans because their defense isn't great, and that's where he was last year. I don't know if it's all him, but you got to run the ball. Please run the fucking ball. If you're the Falcons, I am on the Falcons this week. You got a Tundra with snow tires, and you're taking the Kia out for a spin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, you got Bijan Robinson in the red zone. Give him the fucking ball, man. This has been a problem for them because Desmond Ridder.
They need to just go Wildcat in the red zone with him.
Just take
Be their
Desmond Ridder off
package.
the field.
Take him off. You add a blocker, and you got the best athlete in the planet with the football in his hand.
Here's the thing about Desmond Ridder. And I know he probably runs out of time, and it's not fair that he doesn't get as much slack as a higher draft pick and all that stuff, but this is the reality. And, you know, when you look at his EPA, the thing that's confounding, and I think the thing that keeps a lot of these Falcons fans in this thing, I was reading today on Reddit, Falcons fans are listing all of Matt Ryan's stats through his first however many games and comparing them to which is a terrible thing to do. Just don't do that. You're setting yourself up for failure. But the thing that keeps these Falcons fans in the Desmond Ridder conversation, so to speak, is I think in the fourth quarter he's made some big throws. Like, look at his EPA in the fourth quarter. He's top 5 in the league. Through the first 3 quarters, he's bottom 5 in the league. So whatever's happening in the fourth quarter, Desmond, just do that the first 3 fucking quarters.
Just make believe. The game's ending.
Just make believe it's over, other than the Hail Mary pass. The Hail Mary
Desmond,
pass
can you believe the
last
game's
week.
ending soon? We just started. Wink.
Maybe at home they can just put the fourth quarter on the
Yeah.
That's what they should do.
Trick
You
'em.
just hold up the 4s immediately.
Yeah.
But here's the problem: Desmond Ridder last week.
kickoff.
You win that game if he doesn't make the mistakes he made. I mean, right down to, and I don't remember if they went and couldn't get points here, but like the first time they got down in the low red, they end up on third down throwing the ball out to the flats to Bijan. It's a walk-in touchdown. He's behind him. You know, they take a safety. And that's on Ridder. You've got fumbles. You have a bad pick that led to points. I mean, that's over 10 points on Desmond Ridder. And there was also a pick that got called back and a fumble that he picked up on his own. So the guy is kind of a walking turnover machine, dude. And Tampa Bay, the first time you played him, the only reason they're in the game is because Ridder's dropping the ball at the pylon and shit like that. So, turnovers is not, like, this team isn't built to overcome this stuff. And, you talk about game manager, they'd love to have a game manager there because he's not managing the game. He's making some high-end throws, but he's not managing the game. And if he was managing the game, they'd be running away with this division.
Yep.
And so that's my problem is, like,
Points left on the table.
I've been on this thing all year, and, Taylor Heineke came in, didn't look much better. But it kind of is who he is, and I'm worried about their chances of sliding in the playoffs because of these turnovers.
Giants are at the Saints. You think the line's too high at 6 points?
Yes.
Listen, I would listen to Vegas. Stanford Steve gave out New Orleans. You're supposed to fade the team that won big on Monday night.
You can't do this every week. People think it's automatic. You lose bets this way.
This isn't William Tecumseh Sherman going down to the south here. It's Tommy DeVito. And we're talking about Louisiana, not the state of Georgia. I think that.
But Demario Davis is waiting for Tommy DeVito.
No, what I'm saying is.
He's saying he's on your side.
Thank God it's an away game.
I was like,
Yeah, because he don't have to buy any
Yes.
tickets. There's no
Yes.
Italians in New Orleans.
Macon said, but
Here,
Mario Davis,
here-
to which I said yes.
here's why I like the Giants in this spot catching all these
Oh,
points.
no.
Yes. Who are the Saints?
Oh, division winners are the Saints.
Okay.
It's about the fans. It's about New Orleans. You talked about a Vrabel game, a Vrabel spot. This is a New Orleans spot, okay? They don't like Tommy Cutlets. They want them eating fucking, what do they eat down there? Boys.
What coach do you trust more?
Crawfish.
Jambalaya.
Dable or Dennis Allen?
Dable.
Okay, what quarterback do you trust more?
Don't make me answer this.
Push.
It took too long.
Push.
That's the point.
Push. Let's keep going.
Okay, like what defense do you trust more?
Same.
Maybe. You see where I'm getting? You see what I'm getting at?
It's
I just
tough.
think the line is too
tough.
high, and so I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah, there's a reason that
Yeah.
they're hanging all those points out there, and maybe there's something we don't know, right? Because Vegas often knows stuff. But I think the Saints have had trouble with run game at times. They've had trouble with mobile quarterbacks. DeVito chunked off 70 yards rushing because
He was scooting.
he's just willing to tuck the ball and go, and he has good vision. You know what I mean? Like, he might not be the best thrower in the world, but he has good vision. He'll take what you give him, and they got good vision. You got a really good coach drawing shit up for you. I don't think things are good in New Orleans, man. Like, you saw the McCoy cat getting on Derek Carr last week. Kyle, have you ever seen an offensive lineman getting in a
It's
quarterback's
no good.
face?
That's one. That's like obviously don't know what's going on there, but
Yeah.
that's one thing you just don't do unless you're at practice.
I think New Orleans wins this game, but they don't cover.
Me and Jay have done that.
Yeah,
I could see them winning this
you and
game.
Jay, yeah.
Tough place to play.
That's a marital spat.
At practice, buddy, they had to break us up a couple times.
Yeah, that's a marital spat, but you don't do it to him on game day.
No, fuck no.
But I like what Kev's saying is I think New Orleans wins a close game. They have to win this game because their back's against the wall, just like every other team in this division. They have to go short week. LA in Atlanta, they're going to host Indy on Christmas. So like there's a little bit of a difference in what it looks like next week, and they're playing Carolina. You talk about Atlanta, you can't bank on them losing that game. Each of these teams have been going back and forth. When they have a chance to pull away, they can't.
Nobody does. Yeah.
Listen to this: Saints 23, Giants 13.
Sure.
That's a cover.
Maybe. I didn't say I bet this game.
Okay.
Where I'm leaning, though, if I had to put my money on somebody, is I'd see if it gets to 6.5 or, and buy the half point to 7. I actually think the Giants can hang in there in this game.
21-17, New Orleans.
Sometimes the
21-17
best
New
bet
Orleans.
is no.
There's no bet.
That's right.
And I got plenty of bets out there. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Yeah, I'm on my Game Time app right now. I'm looking at Virginia Tech tickets. Maybe we'll win one of those at some point. We did it with Bryce Perkins. Anyways, I keep scrolling on the app. I'm going to get tickets to the Commonwealth Cup. Game Time makes it easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, even last-minute deals. I know because I always wait till the last minute. You can preview the views from all your seats in the venue and Game Time's lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, protects my tickets. That's what I need. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code GREENLIGHT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code GREENLIGHT. GREENLIGHT. That's the code for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
We've reached the low tier. We need to name it. Sports families. I nominate the O'Connells, Kevin and Aiden. Not even related. That's how weak a family this is.
Do we count the Menendez brothers? Because they were courtside at the Knicks
That's
game.
right.
Remember that?
Mark Jackson. Yeah.
Who'd you say? Kevin O'Connell and Aiden?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're not family.
Right. The O'Connells.
Menendez brothers, tough to beat.
Who's a bad sports family that, like, the dad was just really mean? You know what I mean?
The quarterback.
Marinovich.
The
Marinovich.
quarterback.
Marinovich.
Yeah.
This is the Marinovich family tier. I knew it was on the tip of my tongue.
Todd.
And I'm not saying these games aren't going to be good games. I actually think it's not trappy. I wouldn't say trappy because I don't think San Francisco loses this game. And
No.
the line has been squeezed down to 12.5, but this is a Cardinal spot if you're betting this game because I think the public looks at Arizona and they just say like, oh, bad team.
Not the case.
They are a bad team.
Not the case.
But they're
in my opinion.
dangerous bad
That's what
team.
They've
Yeah.
played well against good teams this year. We've seen it at times.
They
Like,
beat the Cowboys with Josh Dobbs.
James Conner, what did he have, like $160 that game?
Yes.
He ran for like 6.5 a pop.
Yes.
That scares me.
I mean,
okay?
the fucking Eagles are going to have to play the Cardinals, and I worry about every game.
That's why they say any given Sunday.
I wouldn't want to see the.
But not this Sunday.
Yeah, no, not this Sunday.
Hey, dogs. Brock Purdy has connected on 70% or more of his passes in 7 consecutive games. He joins 3 quarterbacks to ever do that: Joe Montana, Drew Brees, and Sam Bradford.
Dude, Sammy B.
2016.
So here's the deal, man. I really like Brock. I really love their run game. They are going to cave these guys offensively. But the question is, like last week, and they tightened up at the end. They ended up, I don't know, they didn't end up getting the cover. But San Francisco had trouble with Drew Lock at times.
Yeah.
And I still think this is an NFL offense.
Drew Lock's got a little Will Levis to him, a little fearlessness to him.
Exactly.
Which makes it fun to watch. Which is why, if we're not watching the elite quarterbacks, we watch these backups or the young guys that are in there slinging it up there.
Don't take this group lightly. Don't take this group lightly if you're San Francisco.
Commanders are 4-9. They're at the Rams.
I'm going to come.
I think I'm going to calm.
Do not come.
Well, I here's what I wonder about this game, and this is the one question that needs answering: is can Sam Howell hang in there and score with this group? And I don't think he can. And it's nothing against Sam Howell. Sam Howell so far this year, when we've seen something coverage-wise that he doesn't like, or you see blitzes and you're like, I don't know, maybe he'll be better this week. Like he's kind of been who he is, and against the coverages that the Rams run 3, 4, and 6. Like not his favorite coverages. I think, can they score? Yeah, but are they going to score with these guys? I don't think so. They're not going to see man like against the Eagles. And on the other side of it, the Commanders going up against Matt Stafford, do not sit there and play zone. Because if you do, he's going to carve you up just like he carved up Seattle in that opening game. Look at that as a cautionary tale.
Ron Rivera's going to be over there just like,
yeah, like what the fuck is going on, dude?
he can't do that.
Yeah,
Played the Baltimore defense. It's like when you had the that weight on your bat when you're in the circle.
Donut.
A little donut.
Yeah.
You take it off when you get the commies, D, this week.
Here's the only
Swing.
time. Here's the only time. Yeah, it's funny.
Swing free, huh?
It feels weightless.
Yep.
Here's the only time the Rams. This is the only way the Rams are going to lose this game, is turnovers and special teams. Special teams, they have been the worst unit in the league this year, and it bit them in the ass last week.
That.
Yeah, quiet as kept. It bit them in the ass last week, and if you talk to any Rams fan, they'll tell you, if you're watching this YouTube, the special teams are a problem. I think you win this game. I think you probably cover, but I'm worried about the little mistakes that could keep this team in the game. I think Sean McVay will make mincemeat of Ron Rivera.
I had the Longs as my low-tier fan.
Oh.
That's good.
And the exercise was sports families that party.
Yeah.
Now, this can go either way.
Oh,
because I have gotten completely out of my mind with all 3 of the Long kids. But when I went to your parents' house to do a catering, I came to the doors about 10 a.m., your dad answers the door with a mason jar. And I'm like, is Big Hal ripping moonshine? at 10 a.m.?
Like the
And
40-ounce mason
find out
jar.
it's his concoction of
50,
apple
50.
juice and water.
Yeah, he likes apple
But
juice
I'm
and
like,
water.
if this guy's ripping, you guys would have been top tier.
No, I know. We're bottom tier.
I went
yeah.
low tier.
I gotta throw I gotta shout out the Jokic brothers. They should be talked about in this light.
The Gronkowskis.
Gronkowski's, Tiger Woods' dad. I don't know if there's a Tiger Woods if there's no Earl Woods.
Literally.
there's-
Quite
there's not.
literally.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
there's a
Also of
thing that happens.
Descent.
there's a thing that happens, and there's a thing that happens when we're done with the previews, and that's when we end the show.